This is an 89 Toyota 4Runner. This is an update video to one that was taken a few years ago by Skull Crushers in San Antonio at a truck and Jeep show. Updating this, we've done a lot of things since, and so I've read a lot of comments on YouTube. People have made wondering this, wondering that, and what we've done, and so I'm making a. This is going to be quite a long video. I'm going to give a little bit of dissertation for about 5 minutes before I go over the 4Runner, answer some questions. We also set up an email that I've made so you guys can email me. This thing is for sale, but I don't need the money and I don't need to sell it. Haven't really come hard on a price yet, but it is for sale. But like I said, don't really need to sell it. We have two more 4Runners. I got two 88s, and this one I'm going to make a video in a little short time on this one right here. Zoom out here. 88, fully, completely restored, driveline, everything. So after this video, I'll be making one on this. But show you some pictures and talk a little bit about why we did what we did. A lot of people on the comments. A lot of people in the comments on this ask, why'd you do this? Why'd you use this motor? Why'd you do that? And when you're on the 4Runner, it is a full rock crawler. It's more, I would have to say, it's more closer to a street legal Ultra 4. But I did a lot of things different because you're going to have to think more. It was more of a expedition vehicle. So I'll get into that later with some of this stuff. But you can see we started. Let me see here. Let me get a better picture. Some of these pictures. Let me stand over here. See. This is when we started. You can see we tore down. Give you an idea just how far we went with this. Where are we at here? Tore it down to frame. We got it down to literally, where are we at here? Literally just a frame. We started with just a frame. It was a complete rebuild. The only thing that is still there that's original is the gas tank. A little hard to see this because I'm so close here. Let's see. Once we got a rolling chassis right here, once we got a rolling chassis, did all the welding, we built the whole thing in my buddy's garage. Once we got a rolling chassis, then we stripped it down and had it professionally painted. Everything. And there's a finished chassis right there. And right here. Then we put the body back on. The body, you can see the body, we made a way to put the body up in the air when we were working on it. And what that did, it allowed me to get underneath there sitting on a 5-gallon bucket and completely start from scratch underneath. Every last bit of grease is gone. Did some rhino lining underneath and started from scratch. And then I'll show you this because I won't go back to the book, so I'm going to show you some pictures now. Picture of the motor before it went in. It's got a fuel-injected Chevy 350 in there, TBI. Putting the motor in right there. Everything on this vehicle is brand new. I didn't put one single used part on there. There's the motor going in. Brand new tranny transfer case, which that transfer case eventually came out. We put a Marlin Crawler big spline kit in there. Trans coolers, you can see we have backup stuff on this. So I'll try and go over everything, but if you look at the pictures here, good picture right here. When we finished, we tested that front end right there. I don't know if you can tell from the picture right here, but that is about, I think we measured 32 inches of that. One's in the air right there, and the rest of the three are still touching. I did change the leaf springs that brought that down. I can flex it about 28.5 inches But and then we went on a trip. The first trip we went on, this thing is built for long road trips. It does get about. We added some more weight, but it was getting 18 miles to the gallon. But I averaged pulling this trailer, which is packed down. We averaged 17.2 on our trip. I live outside of San Antonio. This is in Phoenix right here. We drove out to LA. There's an LA right there. And then we went up by Yosemite for about 2 weeks. Did a 5,000-mile road trip. In the first video, there's another video out there that Skull Crushers took when I said that people wanted to know, I said that we went on a 5,000-mile road trip and that wasn't on a trailer. No, this 4Runner is actually pulling a trailer. It's not in this picture, but that's not on a trailer. And this is up above Yosemite. And then from there, we went that's up by Yosemite. And then from there, we went to Las Vegas for about a week. And those are taken out of the windshield of the 4Runner. And this is at the Grand Canyon right there. Parked at the Grand Canyon. This is up in Utah. We were gone about 2.5 months. This is up in Colorado, a Mollusk Pass and Coal Bank Pass right there. And then this is in Durango. And this is that one's up at Clear Lake. Right here, this is Clear Lake. That's at 12,000 feet. And some more, Silverton, Clear Lake. And coming back home, just somewhere in, I think, New Mexico. People were wondering why we did certain things. You get comments on there. A lot of them are respectful. Some of them are from the guy that's got the 12-inch shackles and a snorkel. But, it took me about a year to write the blueprint for this before we did it. I wanted to achieve high gas mileage. It had to be able to cruise fast because we go on long road trips. The reason we picked the 4Runner is because I actually have a bed in the back that you can stretch out and you don't have to lay, in a curled up fetus position to sleep back there when it's raining. So a lot of the reasons we did this, but we tried to make a vehicle that could go anywhere and still get good gas mileage, and so weight was an issue. We use a principle in street racing. Every 100 pounds is a tenth in the quarter, which means that every 100 pounds you cut, you can pick up a tenth in the quarter mile. And so we use that principle for weight for gas mileage. Harris Performance spec'd out the motor. I had a guy, buddy of mine, that builds hot rod motors. That's all he does is hot rod motors, build the motor to the specs. We were shooting for 19 miles to the gallon. We didn't know exactly where we'd end up. The host truck was a 92 TBI, which is capable with those motors. If you do everything right, like Harris Performance specs out, you can get up to 21 miles to the gallon out of them. We were shooting for 19. We didn't know what the air signature, being so tall, would do. We ended up with 17. I've added a couple hundred more pounds since we went on our trip. So, we're probably, I don't know, we're probably mid-17, something like that. The reason I kept the 410 gears is we got enough horsepower. It doesn't really, I don't need low gears. And although it is a rock crawler, it was made for a lot of highway miles. So at 70 miles an hour, I'm right at 2,000 RPM, so I'm just starting to make horsepower. At 80 miles an hour, I'm at 2,400 RPMs, so I can go from 70 to 80 pretty darn quick. I've had it up to 95. Don't really know. I'm sure it'll do well over 100. Don't know. I can pull a trailer, cruise it. I can pull a trailer at 80 if I want. Problem with doing that, you burned up the bearings in the trailer last time we tried that, so not. But let's go over it real quick and we'll do it. The reason why we Susan, can you pop the hood? The reason why we picked the TBI is we went into this with a principle because it was made to go long distances into real remote places. It was originally built, we were going to go Dead Horse, Alaska, which is as far north anywhere in the world you can drive. Last 1,000 miles is a dirt road. And so we went into this with a principle that if the part couldn't be found quickly from an auto parts store, goes right there. if the part couldn't be found really quickly at an auto parts store, it has to be unbreakable. So that's why we went with the rear end, we went in and stuff like that. But the reason why the TBI is a great motor for torque. Puts out enormous amount of torque at a low end at RPM, where the Vortec is more of a horsepower motor. And we were wanting to, we're looking for the torque. It is capable of getting good gas mileage, but the TBI is an extremely easy to work on. Anybody who has any experience with mechanics knows that, you know, you can rebuild the TBI fuel injection system for with injectors for about $150 and takes about a half an hour right on the side of a road. And the 4L60, plethora of parts, decent transmission, not the you know, the greatest, but it's easy to work on. Goes into a Toyota 4-cylinder transfer case, Marlin crawler big spline, 23 spline input. I forget what I have so many splines in my head that, was it 27, 30 spline output front and rear. So let's go through it and we'll do it. I washed it today, but I didn't. Usually I keep under the hood real clean. I didn't because I wanted people to understand that, you know, this thing really is a clean. You can see how dusty it is down here. There's no oil, but it is. Usually I keep it clean. Dual batteries. They're isolated. It's right there. This runs all the accessories, so even if I were to keep it going all night on the laptop and all stuff like that, there's no way I could, even if I killed the battery, it would still not a problem starting, because we do go some really remote places. Other than that, it's pretty much stock. It's got a slight cam. All the smog is up and working. I use a stock charcoal canister. Everything on this motor is exactly the way it came out of a '92 Chevy C1500 truck. I wanted it that way for smog reasons. If it, you know, California or anything like that, I did change the cam. It's been bored out for 60 over. It's got a few little things done to it. Other than that, it's stock. I got my wife pointing at me here. What?
You need to look for your...
Okay. It's hard to talk in. Okay. You look down in here, you can see it's clean. It's got a be-cooled big radiator in it. But other than that, it's clean. You can see the motor's dusty right here, but there's no oil, no grease or oil anywhere on this entire thing. So here, let's shut this, Susan. I got this. Grab this pole. Put it behind it. Since the last video Skull Crushers did, we put that is a rigid, and we got them down here in the front too. Put LED. These are LED motorcycle lights, which are right here that are, where's my finger, which is really, really bright. Embedded them in there. They're adjustable. I live in the hill country in Texas. We've got a lot of deer problems, so they're actually adjusted out slightly for deer on the side of the highway. And the other thing we did since Skull Crushers, I put a Marlin crawler, the big spline transfer case in there. Where is it here? There it is. You can see I keep this thing really clean. I don't like oil. Let me climb underneath here and give you the whole shot here. No oil grease. You can see on the bolts on the oil pan. Let me get no oil. Got the emergency brake on the transfer case. Thing's spotless. And the other thing we did since then is the big Ford Fab 9 rear end with the True High 9 third member. We'll go over that in a second. So the overall basically is it's got a 5.7, been punched out, built. It's putting out 300 horsepower into pretty much a stock 4L60. It's got some electrical things we've done to it. You know, I can adjust, I can bypass a lockup and force a lockup on, which will get me about another mile to the gallon on the highway. One of the problems we had was Harris Performance wrote the chip, and because the computer didn't understand that the truck is 1,500 pounds lighter than it was, and I got 30% more horsepower, that the lockup, every time I started up, even the mild grade would come off, and it doesn't need to. So I put the lockup on the dashboard so I can lock it on and lock it, which also cuts your heat, so there's no heating issues. The trans is cooled. The trans is cooled by a big trans cooler right behind there. Punch that out. But then it's got a backup trans cooler with a small fan on there. Where are we at here? Right there, see if you can see that. And I control that on the dashboard. So if you're rock crawling, I'm getting no air across your dashboard, across the radiator, I can hit the fan and the second backup cools, and it's a done issue at that point. The front electric fan is the biggest spall they make, the 22 amp puller or pusher. So then it goes into the Marlin Crawler transfer case, comes out. I've got the emergency brake on the transfer case right there, that goes into a true 3-inch thick wall drive shaft, 1330 yokes, goes back into the Fab 9 right here. It's got Dutchman axles built the rear end for me. The reason why we didn't go disc brakes in the back is because I would have had to upgrade the master on the firewall. I didn't mind doing that, but I wanted everything on this thing had to be where I can get parts at any auto parts store off the shelf. And so if I would have put disc brakes in the back, I would have had to upgrade the master on the wall, and so I really didn't want to do that. I wanted stuff easy to get. So we put, these are F100 brakes, drum brakes. They are stamped Ford on them. They were bought from Ford. They're not aftermarket, some cheap aftermarket. Dutchman axle built the rear end. It's got 35 spline axles in it. I'm not going to, there's a lot of companies that I did business with on that I like, and there's a lot that I didn't. A few that stand out that need to have a plug put in is, number one is Trail Gear. Trail Gear was outstanding. They really helped me out with some problems. Matt down there went over and beyond, helping me with some problems. They didn't have to. I stopped really dealing with Marlin Crawler because I just couldn't get them on the phone. They weren't really apt to answering questions. They weren't, not nice, but Trail Gear went above and beyond without a doubt. Especially Matt Iman down there at Trail Gear. He really, if he didn't know the answer, man, he'd call me back 3 days later with the answer. The other one that I got to really plug is True High 9, who made the third member for this. If you're not familiar with True High 9, get on their website. People don't understand. This is a 1-ton rear end. That gear set, the teeth, and the third member in this is bigger than a Dana 70. Everything just barely fits in there. This thing's rated at about 1,200 horsepower, the rear end. But Mike down there at Trail, the third member on the rear end on this was almost $3,000, and it was really tough for me to swallow just that much on just one third member. But Mike, I was talking to Mike and what I was going to be using this for, and he said, one thing he said was, if you break down, if something happens to that third member and you're in the middle of nowhere, if you take that out and overnight it to me, I will fix it and overnight it back to you the same day. And if it's my fault why it broke, I won't charge you. And that was a done deal. Here's my credit card kind of a deal. So I really appreciate Mike down there. It's more of a piece of art than it should be underneath a truck. So really lifted it too. If you look at it, the rear end is high. You can see how high that drive shaft is. Amazing. Lifted like 5 inches. Not even in the ballpark where it was. It's got a high pinion in the front. It's got a Grizzly locker in the rear. It's got the locker in the front, high pinion right here. This is probably the only street legal vehicle that's running twin high pinions that can pull a trailer and do 80 on the freeway and still get 18 miles a gallon. If something else out there exists like it, sure like to see a picture of it. Every single thing, like I said, the only thing that's original is the gas tank. Everything else, every nut, bolt, everything's been switched out. You can see, even when we put the gusset on here, I didn't want to see the welds. So after we welded, I took painstaking and sanded it so it looked like it was one on there. And chromoly everything's changed out. The high steering, did the flip the U-bolts, everything. Yeah, there's not. It's got dirty 30 axles, goes into chromoly hub gears. Everything's new. The calipers, the rotors. There's not one used part in this vehicle. This car is brand new. It's got 20,000 miles on it as it is. A lot of people want to see the. Let's go back here. A lot of people want to see this. Got a lot of comments about this. My airbags. When you're pulling a trailer at 80, you can see how long these leaf springs are, and it becomes very unstable. I mean, you couldn't do it. And so we were sitting around my buddy's shop one day and pulled out the plasma cutter and started playing with this, and it works so well, it's unbelievable. And what we did was to use 2-inch trailer hitch material, got another set of so we could weld to it, leaf spring plate flipped upside down, welded to it, and just drilled those receiver hitch pins, drilled them tight so they're snug. And basically, when if I'm going to Colorado or wherever I'm going to, I can get there, just let the air out, pull the pins, pop them out, and then it gets super flexible at that point. There's a 9-gallon freshwater tank. People want to see that. In the first video, you can see it's supposed to freeze tonight, so I didn't want to put water in it. It's got a RV water pump in it, so I got a full garden hose. That's how we take showers when we're on the road and everything. Motor, if you fill it up before you get to your destination, the motor warms it up nice. But if you're fishing and everything, it's nice. What we did recently was, when you're at 13,000 feet, engines start to run a lot hot, and you should really change your timing by about 4 degrees. And I didn't want to do that, but when you're at 13,000 or 13,200 feet, it really starts to run hot. So what I did was, we put a diverter valve. I turned the switch to turn the water pump on, put a 3-way switch in, put one on the dashboard, put a diverter valve in. I have a line that comes up right here. You can see it up in here, right here, turns, and I got let's see if I can see, you can see it right here. Right here, I got a copper bar that goes in front of the radiator with little teeny holes drilled in it. So if I'm up at 13,000 feet and the engine's running 210, 215, I can just switch on the dashboard and shoot 20 seconds of cold water on the radiator. Heating problem gone. This thing runs during the summer. It runs at 190. It's got a 180 thermostat. It usually runs about 185, sometimes 190, 185, 187 during the summer. Tranny runs at about 165 during the winter. It runs at 180, and transmission usually runs about 135 during the winter. A lot of people wanted to know about this. I'm going to hand this to my wife so I can show people how this works right here. This right here, I have a cutting board for it. Couldn't find it somewhere in my storage. Built this out of aluminum because of weight again. This comes off right here. Now, this gas tank right here, if people can look, is bolted in. Does not come off. It's just, come over here. You're going the wrong way. Come over here.
I'm trying to get from the sun so they can see.
What we did was, right here, plumbed it all. Made a couple mistakes. Plumbed the can, brought it down, drained out right into the gas tank. Obviously, you brought it up here so it couldn't siphon out. Came down, and then we tried it and it pulled a vacuum. So we put another line in it, comes down here, and this taps into the purge line on top of the gas tank that goes to the charcoal canister. We just wide into it. So the car is, when it's running and there's gas in here, it's always sucking fumes off the tank, so it never builds up pressure. But I got a fuel pump underneath that pumps it straight into the gas tank, so I pick up another 100 miles range doing with this. And we drove back from, I pulled in a trailer, we drove back from Colorado. It took me 23 hours, drove straight. Yes, this thing can go. I could jump in and drive to New York right now. I drove back 23 hours straight from Colorado, pulling a trailer, only stopped 3 times for gas in this. Another thing is, this comes off. Once this is open, you can, if the gas tank's empty, take the tire off. What I do, like when we're in Colorado, I pull the tire off. This thing just lifts off. It's just got a pin that goes through there. Undo these right here. I got bolts in the ashtray. Put the bolts in there, tighten them up, tuck them underneath there, pull this off, take the tire off, shove it over the back axle, because I don't like a lot of weight hanging off the back of this when I take the pins off. This right here, I got a little gas-powered barbecue. What we did was we put that there. I have a cutting board that goes there, and also it's where the barbecue goes when you're camping. So you keep the ice just down here, put the barbecue there with the cutting board, and turns into your little cooking station. This thing was built, like I said, now you might understand why we did what we did with this thing. This thing is built for extremely long road trips, long distance without shutting it off. Everything on this, I consider it either easily to replace or unbreakable. Trying to think. I know I missed a ton.
We're at 25 minutes.
We're at 25 minutes already. I could sit here for an hour. The inside, I didn't even show the inside. Let's do the inside real quick. This is a switch for the water tank. This is for the lights. I got power ports in the back, so when you're camping, laptop, I got power ports back here. I got rewired everything for even the front one, so bigger amp off the accessory, off the other battery. I got a whole bank of switches right here that are, one's lockup, one is a trans fan, and the other one is the fuel pump to transfer the tank. And that you can see like that. Seats are perfect. I put seat covers on there because the seats are perfect. But like I said, it's for sale. But you know, we discussed, we didn't know exactly what to put it for sale for. It won't go cheap. What's the new email? It's
jwsmconst@yahoo.com.
You can email me. I won't take a dime less than $17,900. I have right now, without labor. It took me 3 years to build it. I didn't even show up for work for about a year and a half of that. I got about 50 cash into it.
Walk with me around the other side.
I got about 50 cash into it. Don't know exactly what I have. There's about 10,000 in that. It's truly one of a kind. It's like I said, it's pretty much a street legal Ultra 4. Go anywhere. Plug trail gear a little bit up there for helping me so much. But yeah, look for the black one now. We're going to do a video on the black one. People wanted to see what was going on with that one.